welcome you to the Uncommon Truth and journeying with us as we pursue purpose and the principles of performance that empower each of us to live our ideal form of life. Today, Bob and I are joined by our guest host, Levi Geisbrecht, from his cabin in the interior of British Columbia. I'm so blessed to be here. So the background on Levi is he was born in Paraguay in 1957 in a Mennonite colony. He then immigrated to Canada in 1967 with his parents, who were both Canadians, and his 12 siblings, who were all born in Paraguay. As the family was extremely poor and the family needed him to work, he only finished up to grade 8, and he basically took other courses while working to complete up to grade 11. He actually never graduated the grade 12 high school program that we have in Canada. But Levi took that and he went on to further education at the CBI, Columbia Bible Institute, now known as the Columbia Bible College, where he met his wife of 39 years. After college, Levi started his adventure and traveled around the world in 80 days with Pan Am Airlines. This is really the beginning of what tells you a lot about Levi. It's about adventure. So once he's back in Abbotsford in 1980, he started his career in construction with his brother Martin and married his wife Laurel in 1981. In 1984, Levi started and founded Spruceland Millworks in the value-added forest products market. This business was grown by him into a large 250 employee company with an annual revenue of over 50 million. In 1999, he basically sold his company, Spruceland, to a large public company, and he began another season of his life. From this venture, Levi invested with the founders and started the Spa Utopia organization. In 2013, Levi exited from Spa Utopia and acquired the education and training business for registered massage therapy. This became the foundation of VCMT, the Vancouver College of Massage Therapy, an accredited college that became a leader in the industry. In 2019, Levi sold this business as well, and he's now writing his final chapter of his life story, supporting his family's businesses and mentoring his children in the entrepreneurial spirit. Levi is happily married to his wife, Laurel, has 4 children and 6 grandchildren. I have been friends with Levi for over 20 years and can testify to how Levi has been a leader and to the high performance standard he has and continues to live his life by. He's always lived full out, has written many great chapters of his life story. So let's find the uncommon truth about writing our life story with Levi. Thank you for joining us today. And we look to journey and find the uncommon truth about writing our life story. Welcome, Levi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here at the lake. And Bob, I'm excited. So the real first question that we've got for today is, what is the key to writing a great life story? Levi, why don't you start with this?
Well, starting at the beginning, I would need to say very quickly that we are pretty much shaped by our childhood and our families and our history. And I have a very notable history of my family having moved from what was the Ukraine in the 1880s to southern Manitoba, pioneered over there, and then my forefathers moved from there to South America, where I was born, and then back to Canada in 1967 when I was 9 years old, and having an attitude of adversity. How that shapes you, and having been through a lot throughout history, I look back on my forefathers, and that's pretty much shaped my looking forward and my life's perspectives, because they went through some very, very difficult times. And so as I became of age and started to realize what my ambitions were, I really looked back a lot and realized that I'm actually a product of a really strong community. And I have that DNA of a community mindset that's ultimately shaped me and who I became, and how I actually lived my life to together with the rest of my family, my immediate family and my friends, and what my ambitions were. And they were largely shaped by my upbringing of coming from a very poor background, having to work for everything. Nothing was given to us. And then learning what that meant on how I would shape my life and what I wanted out of life. So my background had a lot to do with who I am and who I became.
So what I'm hearing you say is that our childhood, our family, and the people that we are in proximity to really shapes our character and our attitude or mindset that we move forward once we reach that independent stage in our life. And those pillars, for sake of a better word, or foundation, is really what we leap from.
Absolutely. And that was the thing, is that whenever I did something, I always had my family in mind. And so from early on, when I was a teenager, we had to go and work. And it was not uncommon for us as young teenagers to have to work all summer, not play in the summer between school. And that money was given to parents to support the community of our family. And so early on, I learned that to be a successful family or a unit or a community, you really have to think about everyone else around you all the time. And so none of us resent the fact that we worked hard all summer and they gave the money to the family, to the parents, so that the whole family unit could survive and move on and do the things that they needed to do to support one another. It was pretty much survival at many times. So sure.
So Bob, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I really appreciate Levi's story of community and family and the value system that he was brought up with, that hard work was important, that contributing to the family was important. Ironically, I was just thinking as he was talking, I've met at least 4 families over the past, let's say 6 months, that had 20-something-year-olds sitting in their basements. These are their children, Levi. You won't recognize this. Sitting in their basements, playing video games, refusing to go out and work, refusing to get work as they ponder their life, right? So it's quite interesting, and I'd like to hear your perspective as how our culture has changed and the fabric of society has changed for many families at some point in time. But I'm just really appreciative of how your parents brought you guys up and how the family supported all those values. And I think it's really important as we go forward to understand it's those basic values and beliefs that we have really structure the people that we work with, the people that we lead, the people that we touch on a day-to-day basis. It's our basic values that rub off, that shine through what we say, and maybe the most important thing is just what we do. So yeah, that's my comment, Heath.
Well said. So Levi, that really leads us to, I think, another question. How important do you think it is to have and to live by principles or rules, for sake of a better word? Do you think having principles is a key factor to success?
Right. So to really succeed in life, I had to come up with some coping dreams or some principles that I really wanted to execute. Well, actually, it was more of halfway through my business career, I realized that I started to look around all the people around me, at the successful ones and the ones that were not successful. And it's pretty quick to see that the really successful ones have some real strong principles, and the ones that don't, and success covers a wide range. It's not just financial. It's personal. It's family. There's a lot of things that I would define as success. And I soon realized that I wanted some principles to live by, or what was making and shaping my life. And so I came up with 5 points that I live by. And I work them hard and I work them regularly. And they have been an enormous influence in my life. And I know not everyone has them, but I'm a bit of a note taker. Like I like to be structured. As a matter of fact, when I've got a Saturday, first thing I do in the morning, I make a list of all the things that I want to do that day. And I'll write them all out every morning. And then I'll have a list that I want to, then I just go and I'll cross them off as the day goes by. And so, so I have that same thing as a life principle. And if you give me a few minutes here, I'll walk you through them, because to me, they've been enormously powerful. They have been my best tool. And part of it was an analysis of what my life is like, what have I done successfully and what haven't I, and what caused that. And the other part was who I want to be, or what I should be like, and just observing people who needed structure. So the first one that I came up with is to invest heavily in my family and my friends, and in my personal health, and my relationship with God. So family and friends and relationship with God, and so I realized that the best thing I have on this planet is my family. That's the strongest thing that I can count on. They're there, and they're my powerhouse. They're the ones that they're my insurance policy for that matter. My family and my friends are my insurance policy. I don't need to buy insurance. And it goes back to the old school of a barn burns down in a little town and everybody comes and fixes it and builds a new one. So the community is inbred in me, and it's a very powerful part of who I am. And so investing in them, I use the word investing very carefully, because it required me to think about investing, giving when I didn't expect a return, until there came a time where I might need it. And I remember a friend telling me, and his wife was dying of a brain tumor, and him telling me, you know what, we invested in friends, and now it's payback time. During my hardship, I've got all these people coming around me because I invested in them, and now they're giving me back what I need in my time of need. So my first principle, invest heavily in that, in your relationship. For example, investing in physical health would be part of that. And I realized that early on, actually, because I ran a lot of marathons, and I realized that putting myself into a difficult position of hardship willingly, like running a marathon, and really focusing on strengthening my resolve, my will, so for that matter, was so important, because it would spill over into everything else I wanted to do. So now I had the power to do something because I did something hard willingly. And I remember a friend invited me to a little investment seminar. There was just 3 of us. And so we were talking about, are you still staying in shape? Are you still biking? Are you still running? Yeah, we're doing this. And one of the 3 looked at me and said, so how do you do it? Because I don't have the power to stay with a program. I just don't have the resolve. And I looked at him and I said, here's what I do. I consider staying in shape and going out and doing my 15 or 20K run or whatever it was. I considered it as investment. I don't look at it to see how much fun am I having. Because to me, it was always, I wanted to return somewhere. Where would I get the return? Maybe when I was 70 or 75 or 80 or somewhere. Or simply the quality of my life went up. So I looked at him and I said, here's what I say when I'm struggling in that aspect. I say, shut up, Levi, you're investing, when I'm at kilometer 25 and I'm having a hard time. Shut up, Levi, you're investing. And so what was very profound about that, because he looked at me and he repeated it. Shut up, you're investing. I said, do you have RRSPs? And he said, of course I do. I said, so it's the same principle. You have to put in, and the sooner you can do it in your life, the longer your payback will be, just like any money you're putting in the bank. So I found that to be very profound in my life, because I had a plan, and I actually worked the plan. I worked it all my life. I've run like 30 some marathons. And it wasn't only because I loved running so much, although that was a great rejuvenating of my spirit and body. But it was also a principle that I wanted to perform, which would be that if I could do that hard thing willingly, I would have that spill over to almost anything else I wanted to do, because I built resolve and I built the ability to suck it up. I built the ability to just hold in there in hardships. And so that was my first principle. And then, my relationship with God was important to me. In my case, that was something I wanted to do, have a prayer time, have a time to meditate and be really personally, have a personal relationship with what I see in life as there's much more to what what you see daily in front of you, and just to meditate on the grandeur of life in such a space and time as we are in. And so then the second thing,
Levi, before you go on to the second thing, first of all, absolutely brilliant. Those first principles are absolutely brilliant. But I wanted just to reflect on the comment, "Shut up, Levi, you're making an investment." Heath, we've talked to several people in these interviews, and it's a battle of the mind. A lot of what we do, the rituals, the habits that we have, the discipline that we have, it's our mind battling ourselves. So we might want to do it, but there's a piece of our head, a piece of what we think, that stops a lot of people from getting off the couch. And I just think our listeners and our viewers probably really appreciate that. It's like, it's not easy to run 30 marathons, man. It's not easy to train. For the training hours for 30 marathons is a massive commitment and a massive effort.
I think it makes life a lot easier when people can answer the question why. Because in most cases, when somebody goes and says, oh, I think I'd like to stay in shape, it's not about just saying, I just want to stay in shape, or I want to accomplish something. You need to be able to have a good answer to the question why. Why is that so important? Is because when times are tough, you no longer have a shallow foundation. You actually have a really powerful place that says, oh, here's a really good reason why I'm doing it. Like, that's why I use the word investment, because most of us, or many people, look to the future to have some money left over, or to invest in things. And so they have a pretty good reason to do it. So if you have a really good answer to the question why, it's just a lot easier. Because in my case, it was, why would I want to run that, do that hardship or stay in shape? Because I had a very clear idea that if I did this, I would get that result. And I could already feel it. I knew it. I sensed it all along the way. And to answer the question, why would you want to do this, is the first thing you should do. And then look for those reasons. And then if you can't come up with any, you may not want to do it, because that needs to be the foundation. So carry on.
And
why is something we...
Go ahead, bud.
What I was going to say, Bob, real quickly, is that Levi just hit a really, really critical question that we always talk about, and that's the why. Our mission statement is to pursue purpose and principles of performance. And Levi's points thus far have been on both of those. Our why, which drives us forward, and his number one is investment. Consistently investing in relationships and health. Because if you're not taking care of me, you can't take care of anybody else. It's like putting on the mask in the aircraft if it pops down on yourself first, so that you can help others.
Oh, so well said, Heath. So well said. The other thought that really links to the why to me, that Levi brought so much insight into, is he talked about his relationship with God, or his spiritual side. He said definitively, and Levi, tell me if I'm wrong, that there's a lot more to life than what we see and just kind of touch and feel. There's a lot more to life, he said, and that is such an uncommon truth. There's so many people that I know that only live, but the things they see and touch and feel. So the why for them is a big question mark. Like, why me? Why should I do this? That's a search for many people, a search. And for me personally, I felt that when I started to explore my spiritual side and started to connect with God, that the whys became very clear. That as an example, that I had gifts and talents, and I had specialty areas, and I was blessed in many ways that I could not see without exploring that spiritual side, without exploring that relationship. But maybe you could talk a bit about that and how that's impacted you.
Yeah, well, I'm not satisfied with just what you see every day, and I'm not satisfied like what the simple thing. I do want to go into the deeper questions of life, because I think that to answer the question why, I need to know more about, you know, what's my purpose, what's the whole point of it, did we just come from. There's a lot of science out there that says, or theories that talk about evolution, or that talk about how we came to be, and I don't buy many of those, because they don't make sense to me. There's too much order and logic in when I look around where my setting here, which is absolutely spectacular. I'm always in wonder and awe, and I just can't imagine that was randomly there. So I want to go deeper into, and I think something we forget to do, or we've stopped practicing to do, is just to sit and think, and not be involved, and not actually have, not write, not listen to anything, just to sit and think. And I do that. And when I watch nature around me, I pull myself back and I just sit and I just ponder. And I find that when I can go into the deeper parts of my soul, I actually come up to a place that I find that's really drives everything to, there's got to be a creator who, with grand design, who actually had this in mind, who made it so good. I just can't fathom that everything that I see around me, including people, just are there by chance. So because I can't wrap my head around that, I have to go down the path of, so if it's there, what is the purpose? What's my purpose? And that requires some good, deep thinking, and learning. And I find some great speakers out there who give me further truth on that. But sometimes it's just sitting and looking at the stars and looking at the trees and going, how does this connect with my soul? I love doing that out in nature. So I find myself going there and often.
So let's move on. So the first summarize, I was just thinking of this is, I think this is deep stuff, and I think it's important. I want to make sure we get through the 5 points that Levi has. So I'm going to summarize point 1. Now I'm going to summarize. I got to kind of control this because it's so deep that we can go on. And I really want to summarize that last point. Levi is really focused on creating an alignment between his body, his soul, and his spirit. And that really comes from point 1 summarized as investing consistently in relationships and health. That alignment between body, soul, spirit is key. So point number 2.
Embrace your adversities. So it's pretty much that simple. Embrace your adversity. I found too often, for me and for those around me, as soon as something really hard comes along, we want to exit from it. We look for every way that we can to reduce the pain or get out of a difficult situation. I think the contrary. I think embracing your adversities and understanding that your adversities shape you, it's just like writing tests for anything you study, that we've forgotten how important the really hard things in life are. They are critical for our success. And so I've coined the phrase, or used the phrase for myself, embrace your adversities, because too often I've found that that really difficult thing that I went through over there did shaped me this way, or actually it was a real blessing or something amazing in disguise. So what I thought was something horrible turned out to be something beautiful. So it's a trick to think, or it's false to think that all hardships like that are not good for us. Many of them are super important for your success. So I use that one a lot. So when I'm in a tough spot, I often go, the first thing I'm going to do is calm down in it, stay calm in it. Why? Because I don't even know yet if it's bad for me or not. So until I really know that, I'm just going to stay calm. I focus on just staying calm myself. I might be in distress for 24 hours, but I work really hard at coming back to my equilibrium. And then I'll look to see, all right, let's just watch and look at this from all perspective and just walk through it, because there's a very good chance, historically in my life, there's a very good chance that this is good for me. And it's a principle I practice a lot. When I'm in a hard spot, I go, this could really be good for me. So then I calm down and I work it, and I wait for it to go through it. And usually when you're calm in a hard place, you make better choices. It doesn't damage you as much. And yeah, you just come out better. So
Levi,
Wow. So point
Levi,
two.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Levi,
Bob.
I'm excited. Put me in line for the first signed copy of this book, Levi's 5 Principles. Brilliant.
yeah.
Well, I'm writing like crazy, buddy, because we might have to co-author with them.
So I read a book there, and I read this book quite a while ago, and it's probably, I coined some of my life story on that point. It's a book called The Adversity Advantage. And it was about I think this person climbed Mount Everest, and I think he was a paraplegic or something, but he kept going. And he realized all the great things in his life that he was able to accomplish were because of some of the crises that he went through. And reflecting on that, I soon realized, you know, actually, there's a lot of truth to that. So
Yeah.
Uncommon.
So let's jump to
Uncommon
point
truth.
Yeah, I'd say, so the uncommon truth here, point two, is embrace your adversity. This is going to shape and bring you growth. And from that growth comes the blessings that we're going to get from that challenge that we've overcome, that confidence that we'll build. But really important that I thought you said was stay calm and work on what you're focused on. Focus on your thinking to be defining it by asking the question, what's great about this challenge, this moment I'm in? What can I learn? And don't make a decision in a poor state.
Right. Good. Point 3.
Yeah.
Point 3 is learn to let go. I use that one a lot. Matter of fact, I practiced it this last year a lot again. What do I mean by learn to let go? I personally don't carry any baggage, like really zero. Why? Because I have committed to myself that I will not carry any baggage, because I'm learning to let it go. And either I make a choice, either I confront the situation that needs to be dealt with and deal with it as well as I can, or when I am done with that portion, whether it worked or didn't, then I back off and I go, okay, now's my time to say, this now needs to come out of my system. It needs to come out of my brain. And I'm no longer, I used to go for a walk when I was really disturbed about something. Somebody did something, somebody wronged me, said something really mean to me, or whatever it was, or I need to get over a failure, an investment failure, or a business venture thing that was really difficult. I'd go for a walk, and I would say this: before I finished this walk, I will have let go. So letting go for me was always a choice. My feelings rarely were there. it was the beginning of my feelings following my choice. And sometimes it would take weeks, weeks, months for the feelings to follow and come in line. But it was always initiated by choice. So I don't carry any baggage. When I am really upset about something, I give myself 24 hours to be really upset about it. And then my next step is, okay, then I make my plan. How am I going to come out of this? And then I work the plan, and my brain shifts from being afraid and anxious to working the plan. And that involves, all right, here's my time. I'm letting go. And I move on, and it works really well for me. It might not work for everyone, but it certainly works for me.
Wow. I think that is really an amazing chunk of gold for all of us, because our emotions create motion, right? And unfortunately, our focus can quite often, Bob, cause us to make decisions on a negative energy or focus, which isn't going to usually bring a positive outcome. So the skill that I just learned from you, Levi, and I use this quite a bit, but really emphasize for me, is that allow yourself to be real, to feel what you feel. Give yourself a defined period of time to allow yourself to think, to feel it. Then do something physical that's almost like a ritual of letting it go. Whether it's a walk, whether it's a run, whether it's a workout, a hike, it doesn't matter what it is, but start, allow yourself to feel that anger, frustration, whatever it might be. Then what is good about this? And after you've defined that, move into the action steps and create a plan on how to move forward from the decision. And at the end of that activity, you've actually created a mini priority list of how to move forward in your next steps. That's profound to me, and an effective tool for all of us to remember. It might give yourself the time, 24 hours, whatever it is, to go through it and work through it mentally, but then take a physical action combined with your choice to physically let it go and move forward. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Well, it seems to me that one of the great joys in life, and maybe the purpose in life, is to learn and grow and move forward. And you gentlemen are absolutely right. When we don't let go, it seems that it's a weight that we have to bear. And over time, the weight grows and grows and grows, and we can't move forward. We don't move forward because of all that weight we're carrying. And what good wisdom to confront it as quickly as possible. I loved your rule about giving yourself 24 hours. I think that's when my kids used to argue with each other, I would say, okay, you guys I would ask them, how long do you want to be angry with each other? And they'd say something unreasonable. I'd say, no, choose another time. And they put a time limit on it. And I'd say, okay, to your rooms, when the time's over, come back and you will have worked it out in your head. And so they learned actually to do that themselves over time. And that's just the discipline of limiting your own emotional pain or your own mental anguish. So Heath, your comment about physically doing something is absolutely brilliant as well. But I think it's largely also a mental structure. Nicely said.
Yeah, right. Like I think too many people go throughout life with too many burdens that, just like you said, weigh them down. So traveling light is really important. And I have an example for that. I know someone who in her dying days, in this person's dying days, had some issues with some individuals that hadn't been there for her, and during her hard times, and she held that against them, and she made a very interesting comment, which I was very struck by, and I'll never forget it. She said, make sure that individual that offended me does not attend my funeral. Do not allow her, if she comes to my to my funeral and to the actual funeral event, then escort her out. So because I do not want her to be there, and I thought, how could you hold on that hard beyond even your life? So it just really, really reinforced my principle that I will never allow that to happen. We shouldn't allow that to happen, to hold on that tightly, that even goes beyond your life. So the next point 4, we probably need to move on.
Yeah, it is perfect.
Is give. Like, and when you think, Levi's principle is giving, or be a giver, I think it talks about character. Like, you should always try. I always try to give much more than I receive. Because I find the joy in giving. I find the joy in investing, whether it is just giving compliments, or whether it's actually giving somebody a hand with something, or whether it's financial. I think giving it's like a mirror that you can look into and say, do I give more than I receive from those? Or am I needy? Do I need things from people around me that make me happy? Or am I the author of my happiness? And so I think it's just a really good check in your life to say, where am I at with what I've learned about what life is about? And it's not about me. So therefore, I should be investing in giving, be a giver on all fronts of my life. And I find that when I have that attitude all the time, all the relationships and everything around me actually are much happier. There's a lot less stress in my world. So, a lot of these principles that I'm talking about are actually, they were for me to cope with my own issues in life. So just to make the whole point relatively short, there's lots more behind it, but it would be just focus on being a giver. Give on various fronts in your life.
Wow. So 1 is to invest consistently in relationships and health. 2, embracing our adversities and challenges. 3, learn to let go of the pain. 4, give. Mm-hmm. And we have a statement Bob and I talk about a lot, and that is we need to grow, which is learning. Mm-hmm. That allows us to fill our cup so that we have something to give. Mm-hmm. And what you've just expressed is very much in line with that. Constant and never-ending improvement and growth, where we're focused, who we are surrounded by, and proximity you've touched on, and ultimately give what we want to get as a minimum level. And ultimately, what I really respect is that you're trying to give generously so that you're giving more than what you get back. You're bringing value. And that, Bob, in my mind, is something not just from Levi. You and I have heard through numerous people in life, and these people that have all have a level of success quite often directly proportionate to the giving and the value they bring to others. Can you add to that?
I think what we're talking about is kind of a mindset. A lot of people see giving as a debit from your account, where we're talking about it being a credit. There's reward, and there's tremendous value in giving of your time, giving your talents, giving of your money. And some of it's really quite immediate, but some of it's very long lasting. I just got a note from an email from a young lady almost, I guess, 17 years ago. I worked with her, and she sent me this very long email talking about the impact that working with myself and with another team that I was with had on her. And then she went on to wax poetically about all the relationships she had kept in touch with from that time. I've lost, because I'm not that organized, I've lost touch, of course, with everybody, but she had built, because I had invited her in, given her the opportunity, she built all these long-lasting relationships And she said that that experience had massively impacted her, her family life, and many of these people had gone on to become leaders in the community 17 years ago, right? And I had no idea. Like at that time, that was, you know, I was giving freely because that was my mindset, but I had no idea about the impact it was having on the other people's. I was busy in my own life, Levi, right? I was just doing what I do, and
You're surviving, right?
it just spun, you know, it spun off to something else. And I think that happens a lot when you give. I think, you know, you show up and do something, you share your talents, you share your time, you just don't know where it's going to go.
Right, and I think we're in somewhat of a dangerous time, even say politically and otherwise, where culturally people want something. They expect, whether it's money from government or policy change, whatever, they're always looking for some, but what could they get rather than how can I contribute? And I think if the focused a little bit more on every individual was trying to give a little bit more than they would get, the whole world would be a very different place. And so, so I'm concerned right now about our culture as it's becoming far more oriented towards, somebody needs to look after me. So
I totally agree with you. So that segues into our final point, the fifth point.
Fifth point is allow life to be an adventure. And it sounds kind of like maybe like an odd statement, but for me, it's very real, because I sometimes imagine that everything that you imagine, somebody is writing a book or writing down everything that's happening to you and your thoughts every day. And there's going to be this book in the end. And if you get up in the morning and you eat your Fruit Loops, you go to work, you just barely make it through work because you just want to work as hard as you have to. You come home, you eat something, you watch TV, and you go to bed and you do the same thing the next day again. And that's all written down. Who will read the book? So I would say is allow life to have a lot of hardships. Push yourself to the edge, because the spice of life is always near the edge. It's not in the middle where you're comfortable and safe. The spice of life is near the edge. Allow there to be tears in your life. Allow there to be really hardships. Allow there to be great joys and accomplishments and achievements. Why? Because it could make a pretty interesting book in the end. So live life fully, knowing that, imagine someone's actually writing a book and it will be read, but will only one person read it, or will it be actually a really good read? So live life, because you know that there is so much opportunity that you could do, and you're passing by every moment that you don't actually do something significant, or you're experiencing something significant, or just simply enjoying the world for what it is. And you have an optimistic point of perspective on how things work out there. So allow life to be really adventurous. Allow it to be really hard sometimes, because that's actually makes a really good story. So I use that one only because it helps me put the whole thing in perspective of what it is that I want to accomplish and what do I want to end up with. And I use that one a lot, actually. I think about it. And that's why I live life fully. That's why I would run marathons. That's why I do a lot of things that people my age wouldn't even dream of doing. My dad would never do what I do now. I'm like 25 years younger than he was at my age. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, so yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. To visualize that I have a scribe literally running beside me all day, every day. That is impactful. Every word I say, every action I take, will this create value in my life and
Make a great
tell a
story.
story. Yes, tell a story that I would want to read. And that means the story can't be all easy. It can't be all just simple, because all great stories have challenge, have the triumph. You have no triumph if you do not have those challenges to face, to have our character tested, to have a choice of up or down, left or right. Should I stay? Should I go? Pain is the partner of growth. And that's what inspires all of us, is when people actually see us embrace the pain and are able to move forward. And this, for me today, is a very powerful lesson. And I think I try to always live my life along this manner, but it challenges me today in a little bit stronger way, because I don't know that I am always considering that what I choose to do can have an actual impact on other people. And it brings back a statement that says, we're not praised for what we do publicly. We are rewarded for what we do privately. And how are we going to live privately when no one else is watching? When we're out in the country walking along the road, where is our mindset? What are we thinking on? What are we focused on? What are we moving toward? What values are we moving toward? And what values are we moving away from? Those are the moments that define us, that create the character that allows us to live that adventure. So I thank you for that point. That to me was a bit of a dunk right on the forehead, that I really need to be aware, even when I'm alone. That's going to show at the end. And that really segues, Bob, I think, into the question we wanted to ask, and that is, we've alluded to it and have gone around this. Is life about making things easy? Is easy right? If it goes easily, does it mean it's the right thing that we're supposed to do, or not? How do we embrace these challenges, living on the edge, right? So that we get to see the vistas and the views that we're really meant to see in life. You got to walk up to the edge. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, excellent conversation, gentlemen. Thanks so much. I really love your concept of adventure, using the word adventure, Levi. You know, many years ago, I heard a story about a man that was lying on his deathbed, and the people around him were gathered, and as he lay there, they were recounting the tales of his adventures, and they went on and on and on about said adventures that he had in his life. And actually, that struck me as being very important, is that you wanted to have stories to tell at the end of the day. You wanted to have impact, because the theory goes you only live once on this planet, right? So make the most of it. Yeah, that's my comment.
So I guess the overall question is it easy? What is it that you feel, Levi, is the how do I word this? Knowing what we want, defining where we're going, creating priorities, and, or simply put, creating a map, a massive action plan. How important do you feel that is to be able to write your best story?
Right. And so I by no means profess to follow my own principles successfully all the time. And if you did, that's all you would think about. You wouldn't be able to live clearly. But I think having a roadmap is really important, because it'll always center you again. And so I obviously have to say that I don't follow my principles all the time, but I work at them and I have them. So my advice, if I could give that to anyone here, is find a few points that you want to really hone in on in your life, that you want. Find what are the gaps, or what do you want to accomplish, or who do you want to be. Find those gaps. And then I always found that if I wrote them down, coming back to my list, being a list person, if I write them down and have a few rather than a broad brush of them, that I'm always lost in a broad brush. But when I narrow them down to a couple of really clear ones that I can articulate and identify and practice all the time, and they're pervasive, they will follow me in business, they'll follow me in interpersonal relationships, they'll follow me in my character, any avenue that I look for in my life that I want to build on, they're pervasive. So building on a few principles, and then you can perhaps add them, make them your own, or find them from someone else, or you're saying, well, I like those, I could follow those, Levi. Make your own that are unique to you, and then work them. Because I think having a few of them, and then maybe adding a couple of them too, and then thinking about them often will enormously impact your life. Because too many people are lost in the forest. They just don't know what they really stand for, or what they really want to work at. And when you can focus in on a few like that are really critical to who you want to be and to your journey, I think that's good advice. I wish someone had told me that when I was young, because I would have practiced them a lot earlier.
Wow. I'm just writing away here like crazy. There's so much gold here. Bob, what hits me with what he just said is that really defining and creating a clear map with simple and clear focused points that we want to strive for, because life is about striving. I am not always living by the rituals that I want to live by. Levi, as I just shared, he doesn't always consistently follow his 5 principles. We're all human. We all stumble. We all fall. And I love how Les Brown always says it. It's not if you fall down on your back so you can get up quick. Or another statement is, if you fall down 7 times, you just got to get up 8. Our life is about persevering and really trying to create that story that we want to live. How do we define that ideal form of life so that we can strive for it? It's better to aim at the stars and hit the barn than aim at the barn and hit the pig pen, in simple. What are your thoughts, Bob?
I like Levi's comment about lots of people are lost in the forest, and it's really hard to build a map and to figure out your purpose and figure out your principles when you're lost in the forest. And an analogy I'd have, when I was a younger man, I used to climb, be a mountaineer, and I've done over 30 peaks in British Columbia, and we go out for several days. And one time we were on top of a peaks. It was, and we were intense in the middle of winter, and it snowed. Like the track up the hill, it snowed probably 3 feet that night. So when I woke up, my tent was almost covered in snow, and a fog had settled in. And so when I stepped out of the tent and kicked away the snow, I couldn't even tell that I was on top of a mountain. Like, there was literally nothing you could see, and the fog just stayed there, and we had to get back the next day. But there were 5 of us, and if I would have been on top of that mountain myself, I would have been lost. I had no idea what to do, where to go. But the 5 of us sat down and talked about all of our different options, talked about how to navigate, what our fallback plans were, et cetera, et cetera. And we found our way down that mountain together. And so the lesson there for me is, when you're lost in the forest, you're wondering what to do, there is a way off, there is a way out, but find the good people around you. Get people, reach out and ask, reach out and learn, read stuff. There's a way off the mountaintop. There's a way out of the forest.
Yeah, and I think, like, I personally don't look at where's my objective so I can arrive at. I look actually at my focus is on the journey, not actually on my destination. By that I mean is that I think successful people that somebody can consider that as a great individual don't do one or two things that bring them notoriety. I think we good, successful people do lots of little things really well. And I think if we can focus on the journey and doing lots of little things really well that we can all do, because people can go, oh yeah, that person's famous, done that, did some, did one or two great. But then you read behind the scenes, sometimes they're actually not very good characters. So I think focusing on the journey is actually the objective. The journey, do that well, not because when you arrive at a goal, you actually need another one. Otherwise, you'll be lost again. So make your journey your focus, and make your other focus doing lots of little things well that you know you can do. Yeah, I'll do the dishes well. I'll make my bed really well. I'll do this really well. I'll compliment someone. I'll be, all those little things are the foundation of greatness. Because I used to think like, how would I become a great individual? Yeah.
So Levi, what you're saying is the principles are kind of acted out in small steps. Like it's just a day by day thing. You wake up in the morning and there's your chance for adventure. There's your chance to let something go. There's your chance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? You got a day in front of you. Make it adventurous.
I just got to thank you, gentlemen, for this great discussion. This is a deep discussion on how we're all choosing to write our life story. How do we live an ideal form of life that works for us? And you said a few things that are just so profound that I'm going to try to summarize it, and the uncommon truth about how to write our life story. So, number one, we are largely shaped by our childhood and family and the people we are in proximity to. It has a huge impact on forming our character, our attitudes, and our mindset. We need to face life head on and to invest in these quality relationships. Two, we have to realize that hardship is a great environment for creating an attitude of together we can. We're not an island unto ourselves. We need to achieve and support our family, our friends. It creates character that makes life easier in the end. And Les Brown always said it, if it's easy at the beginning, it's going to be hard at the end. If it's hard at the beginning, it will be easy at the end. Easy doesn't really mean it's right. Levi then went through his 5 points of life. And these are very, very strong words of wisdom. 1, invest consistently in relationships and your health. Basically, you got to invest and give heavily into relationships with family, friends, and God. Create a strong community, a strong group that you're in proximity to, and have a strong relationship or a faith that there's more to this than just ourselves, that God created you for a magnificent purpose. And be focused on the good things. Focus on creating an alignment between your body, your soul, and your spirit. We're tripart being. We need to invest in our health, embrace the challenges that are going to grow us through these hard challenges, and have fun in the challenge. Ultimately, we got to create those healthy rituals and persevere. We need to be consistent in our investment in ourselves and others. Point 2, embrace those adversities. This is going to shape and bring you amazing blessings. Stay calm and work on what you're focused on. Ask, what's great about this moment? And don't make decisions in a poor state. Embrace it. The third point was learn to let go. Give yourself 24 hours. Then decide to not carry the baggage, the grudges, or anxiety, regrets that are only going to weigh us all down and prevent us from moving forward freely. We need to find and maybe even do a physical activity that will let it be a trigger to sort things out. It gives you time to go through what you thought about, feel those emotions, let them out, then begin planning what those steps are within that walk or that run, that hike, and have a few basic decisions made when you come out of it on how you're going to move forward. And just start moving forward. Let it go. The fourth point is give. Be generous. Give what you want to get as a minimum level. Be the author of our own happiness. Choose to live and invest in life to make ourselves and others feel fulfilled. This is going to allow us to progress. That mindset that we've talked about, giving is not a loss, but an actual investment into others. And remember to focus on that growing and giving versus getting before we give. And the fifth life principle is allow life to be an adventure. We need to look at life as if we have a scribe running beside us every day, in every moment, and ask ourselves, what I'm saying now, what I'm doing now, is that going to be the story that I want to write on this blank page of my life's book today? Be a yes person. Yes, I'm going to embrace this moment. We get the opportunity to create our ideal form of life. If it's going to be, it's up to me. That led us into another question. And as a summary, we just need to focus on the journey. There's 2 dates on our tombstone: the date we're born and the date we pass. Life is the dash between the two. What are we going to do with that dash? Really, life is about striving and adjusting. And as we strive to do the little things really well, that's what's going to make the difference in the end. How do we find our way through the forest? Because we don't always live up to our own standards. But if we persevere, focus on the priorities, our why, our purpose, and knowing what our destination is, will help us run that race and that dash one day at a time. That's all we have. It's not. So let's all learn from Levi, his amazing story that he is writing. It's not written, it's writing. We all have choice, and we can change with one simple decision. So let's all strive, and I'm going to commit to strive, to really trying to focus on the dash. I'm so grateful for today. The time with you, Bob. I just want to thank you for journeying through this question of how do we write an amazing life story? How do we create that map, the purpose, and live by principles of performance? So we thank you as well for joining us today. We welcome you to visit us at the website, our www.theuncommontruth.life, and find The Uncommon Truth on YouTube, Facebook, and most podcast apps. Until next time, God bless.